Hello, this is Danny Raymond, the voice behind Ray's Guide, and this is the second video on my reactions and analysis to the Citizencon presentations, this time regarding the 3 presentations regarding game systems. Then I'll dissect the 2-hour minimally structured discussion at the end in a third video. First, the need for multiple speeds video. This was perhaps more confusing than it should have been because while they were talking 2 modes, there are actually more than that speeds, so I'm going to break it down in a table. First, SCM speed, maximum speed of about 300 to 400 meters per second, Newtonian space, full maneuverability, all offensive and defensive technologies available, weapons, shields, countermeasures, etc. And aside from combat, this is also what we're going to be using for mining maneuvers, landing, docking, and such. Second, SCM speed plus boost. Maximum speed is described as somewhat higher. I'm guessing at about 125, 150% of regular. Still in Newtonian space, restricted maneuverability. They said that there would be debuffs for boosting backwards, but they didn't say what or how much or why. All offensive and defensive technology is still available. This will be used for short-term tactical advantage. Third, quantum control speed. This is the prior max speed of about 1,000 meters per second, plus or minus for various ships. Very restricted maneuverability, apparently. We need to keep pointing mostly straight ahead to maintain the mode, but we do not have to lock onto and calibrate to a destination. No offensive or defensive technology is available. This will be used for fleeing an engagement and perhaps surface to orbit or between not too far apart locations on the same planet. Fourth, quantum boost. This is much higher than quantum control, as it was described as being used for targets up to 50,000 kilometers away. That is much farther than you would want to travel at just 1 kilometer per second. Very restricted maneuverability, but it did not sound like you had to target your destination. So this might be close to the free quantum mode that people have for years been pleading for. No offensive or defensive technologies available. The 50,000 kilometer range would include all surface to orbit and most planet to moon routes, but not interplanetary routes. Fifth is something not mentioned at all in the presentation, but we know has to exist and will exist soon. Jump transit. Now, we don't know what their current plans are for jump tunnels, but jump drives are not separate components on our ships, but rather jump-capable quantum drives. So having jump transit be somehow like quantum travel makes sense. So what it seems to be that they've shown would be something like quantum boost, but with more sense of maneuverability. And then sixth, quantum travel. Roughly 0.2 c speed, no maneuverability, no offensive or defensive technology available, needing to be calibrated to a fixed destination, and that's used for interplanetary distances. So actually 6 different speeds, not just 2. Now, how do I feel about all this? Cautiously optimistic. Remember that there was a time when people were so praising the combat model in Arena Commander. Then the PU came into place, and the priority wasn't how to make Arena Commander work, but how to make the persistent universe work, and it got way more complicated. And now we have a flight combat model that they feel has nailed it for Squadron 42. Great, but how is it going to work for miners and freighters and towers and racers? And that's my source of caution. Second is the power management. The scope of this is so broad, stations, bases, ships, and more, that I'm going to just focus on the aspect that most of us are most curious about, and that is damage and damage control on ships. So the first question I have is, how does this work on single-seat fighters like the Arrow, the Gladius, the Sabre, etc.? Will we be needing to go EVA to open a hatch and get to the relays? That seems like a lot of work and a long time helpless. Or are these more like circuit breakers, that there could be a set of switches in the cockpit that we can press and hold to reset the circuit? The second question is, what will be the function of EMP and distortion weapons in this system? Will they continue to, through some unknown process, cause our systems to be shut down for a short period of time, or will they cause some or all of the relays to blow? The latter gives a lot more of an in-world explanation as to what these weapons are doing. But is that too severe, particularly if on the small ships you have to go to EVA every single time? The demonstration also showed somebody going from one place to get a relay and then move it to another place. But I hope that, in truth, the ship can have a set of spares in its inventory, or I can have a set of spares in my backpack. My more interesting thoughts are how this works with ship defeat in battle. In the presentation, it was said that time to kill was going to be much larger. But time to kill, although a standard word of art in game design, isn't really going to be accurate. It's more like time to defeat. We aren't going to be killing ships into clouds of dust. Because of salvage and towing and repair, we are going to be converting ships into wrecks that can be harvested, towed, and perhaps even repaired into use. How is that going to look? One thing I noted in a prior video is that there will still need to be some sort of big, obvious overthrow moment, or boom. That lets the attackers know that the ship is fully out of action and they can stop shooting and move to the next step. Whether that next step is the next target, boarding, looting, salvaging, etc. Meanwhile, inside the ship, the boom lets everyone in the ship know that we are out of action and need to think of our own next step, whether that is evacuating, repelling boarders, or attempting some sort of emergency repairs. So, what is the boom? I am going to suggest that it is the engine overloading and exploding. That's not as bad as it sounds since, as I pointed out in that other video, once an explosion has a route to the vacuum of space, that is the path of zero resistance, and all the pressure wave and shrapnel will be directed outward. It will still look big and impressive, but all outward. Also, as part of the explosion, every relay is blown. Plus, of course, many other things that were likely to have been destroyed in getting to that boom state. So how can a ship be recovered with no engine and no fuel for it? Well, I would suggest an action from the Xeno threat event. The portable generator. Emergency generators could come in sizes from a large brick up to a 1 SCU crate or larger. You haul the generator from storage or inventory, hook it up to a power port, and then you have to start adding relays to the systems that you want to start first. And which ones do you want to start first? Thrusters, shields, weapons, life support? It probably won't be able to turn on all of them, but you will be able to get a ship back to the point of limping along after a boom. But it won't be easy. So how do I feel about resource management? Again, cautiously optimistic. And third, the prepared segment that I perhaps have the most to suggest about because it is the most still being formed and thus unclear. Investigation. So I'll start with the general and then to my own specific pitch of how they should be. The Elaine Ward mission is a fantastic piece of handcrafted content. That makes it very compelling to play. Once. That is its blessing and its curse. And at times in the presentation, it seemed like they were talking about making a tool set for handcrafting further mystery missions in the same mold, which will be compelling to play once. That is a losing proposition in an MMO, where our ability to consume content is far greater than any company's ability to create new handcrafted content. Instead, the goal has to be, just like with delivery missions, bounty hunting missions, and mercenary missions, to generate the content on the fly from a tool set. It won't be as compelling as handcrafted content. It can't be, but that is the life of an MMO. Second, less Agatha Christie, more Ian Fleming. Those names might not mean much, so I'll provide context. Agatha Christie was famous for cerebral mysteries in enclosed spaces, such as people traveling together on a train, people snowed in at a guest cabin, people trapped on an island, people on a boat, and so on. All single-location mysteries, even if the single location was moving. And Hercule Poirot never killed anyone until the final book of the series, and he was so distraught about it he committed suicide. Ian Fleming, on the other hand, wrote James Bond. The typical James Bond book or film spans the globe, often more than once. See a matchbook cover from some obscure club, and we're off to Algiers. Also, of course, action. Lots of action and danger. And if anything, Star Citizen is a game of guns and spaceships. Third, reward knowledge about the verse. Some of our current mission archetypes reward dogfighting skills, some FPS tactics, some reward efficient route planning and smooth execution. But what should investigations reward? Just like James Bond can tell from a matchbook where to go next, the seasoned Star Citizen investigator will see Wallies and know exactly where to go next, while the novice might have to consult the Galactopedia or ask in chat, who is Wally? So the investigation path will encourage learning about the verse lore, which is good because the verse has a rich lore and learning about it makes the game more engaging for players so inclined. Well, those are the three big requirements. Is there a very popular computer game prototype to work from as an example? Yes, it is a game that many of our current Star Citizen backers may have played as a child or played with their children, as I did. In fact, it was so popular, it was, as best I can tell, the first computer game to spin off a television show.
Where in the world is
Carmen Sandiego?
Now, of course, I'm not specifically talking about implementing the CGA graphic or crude audio, but the basic plan of going from one place to another, more dangerous places at higher reputation levels, and at each location there are a range of people who you can talk to or search to find clues for the next. And you can have 3 levels of success. The first is solving who did it, the second is learning their location, and you get both of those, you have the first crack at taking the bounty hunter mission that is generated from it. And the basic feedstock of the mission generator is a long list of places clues, which, together uniquely, lead to them. And who could you leverage to provide that feedstock? Well, the lore team would be a great example, particularly since if the clues don't already exist, they can add them to the Galactopedia. So here's my 10-word pitch on the investigation missions. Carmen Sandiego mechanics, James Bond vibes, and spaceships, of course. And now an update on our Grow the Channel Ship giveaway. As of recording, we're at 93% of the subscriber goal and 95% of the membership goal, or the IAE Expo, whichever happens first. To give away to some lucky player their choice of the Anvil Liberator, the ship shipping ship for shipping your ships, or the Mixed Odyssey, that long-length look-ahead launcher lorry. 1 entry per video. Members, prior to the publication of the winning video, are entered automatically. And if the winner is a member as of the publication date of the winning video and at the drawing time, remember that if you've let your membership expire, they will win both the Liberator and the Odyssey. For non-members, just subscribe and comment somehow including the secret word. And the secret word for this video is any of the 3 elements of my 10-word pitch about investigation missions. Fly safe, keep it real, and I'll see you in the verse. This is Daniel Raymond for Ray's Guide.